Hey everyone, it's November 28th, 2020, and this is going to be a follow-up video to the video that I did yesterday on the passing of Diego Maradona, the Argentinian football player who passed away at the age of 60. Now, in the end of that video, I touched on this riddle with the Umbrella Academy very briefly, but in this video I want to expand on this. And here we're going to talk about what appears to be a forced synchronicity in the media between a television series and the death of a real-life athlete. Sounds ridiculous on the surface, but the more you pay attention, the more you observe, the more you become convinced that this is actually what's happening in our world. And, we'll touch on another one that I did earlier this month, another forced synchronicity, it looks like, between an actor and a celebrity, contemporary celebrity. So let's get into this. Here we're talking about a show called The Umbrella Academy, which is a Netflix series which follows the lives of about 7 superheroes. I myself have not seen the show. But what I want to point out here is that there's a character in the show named Diego Hargreeves. And it turns out that this character is used as the catalyst for synchronicity with the death of Diego Maradona. Now let's explain how this works. Scrolling down on Diego's fandom page, we find that he has 2 different dates of death due to the series' split timeline. What's particularly interesting is that the second death, which occurs in the Apocalypse timeline, is on November 25th. Diego Maradona, the footballer, also died on November 25th. You'll notice that November 25th is shortly after the assassination of JFK. And in fact, in this television series, there is an episode in which the protagonists attempt to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now, one of the reasons this is so interesting is because on this date that Diego Hargreeves, the television character, dies, November 25th of 1963, measuring from Diego Maradona's date of birth 3 years earlier to that date in 63, notice how he would have been a span of exactly 1,122 days old. 1122. Well, curiously, that's the date of the assassination of JFK, November 22nd, 1122. The 22nd of November can also be written as 22/11, and 2211 is what we call a triangular number. 2211 is the 66th triangular number, meaning if you add every number 1 through 66, you get a sum of 2211. Well, the 66th prime number is 317, and this ties us directly back to the series, The Umbrella Academy, which equals 317 in reverse. This episode, which shows the assassination of John F. Kennedy, aired on July 31st, the date written 31/7. And I want you to think about how, in my last video, I talked about how the death of Maradona was an eclipse sacrifice. This year, in the year 2020, there's one total solar eclipse. The point of greatest eclipse just happens to be over the thin body of land, smack dab in the middle of Argentina. Diego Maradona, perhaps the most famous footballer in Argentinian history, died 19 days before this eclipse. Solar eclipse equals 190. The name Maradona equals 67, just like blood sacrifice, 67, total solar eclipse, 67, and 67 is the 19th prime. He died 19 days before this eclipse. So what we're looking at here is a significant moon riddle. And I want you to think about the name Umbrella Academy. The shadow of the moon is called the umbra. And if you think about the shape of the umbrella, especially as shown here, it's very similar to what we can see of the moon, during its waning or waxing phases. So if you measure from the death of Hargreeves, the character in the TV series, November 25th of 1963, to November 25th this year when Diego Maradona died, you get exactly 57 years. Remember, the moon has a 57-degree range of declination, and in the alphabetic order, the word moon equals 57. But here's the real kicker. On the date of his death, Diego Maradona was 21,941 days old. Why is that interesting? Well, this converts to exactly 743 lunar phases. In the show The Umbrella Academy, a man named Reginald Hargreeves adopted 7 of the 43 children who were born on the same day to mothers with no signs of pregnancy the day before. And the name of this episode, where the protagonists try to stop the assassination of JFK, is called 743. In the show, this number comes from a kill order, but based on this riddle with the moon and Maradona, we know what it really means. Now, the JFK assassination was in Dallas, Texas, and that's the same city that Diego Hargreeves dies in the Umbrella Academy. Notice how November 25th of 1963 has numerology of 118. This is a word we associate with death and homicide in the Jewish cipher. In the English alphabet, Dallas, Texas equals 118. And measuring from the date of this 743 episode, July 31st to the death of Maradona, is a span of exactly 118 days. To make this even more interesting, on the date of the JFK assassination, Diego Maradona was 1,118 days old. Next, I want to look at the date of Diego Hargreeves' other death. Again, that's right, he died twice in this series, once in the original timeline, once in the Apocalypse timeline, and this date is very coded as well. See here how it was April 1st of 2019. This means, measuring from his October 1st, 1989 birthday, it was exactly 29 and a half years. Now this stands out because the moon's orbital period is 29 and a half days. But how about this? Diego Hargreeves, born in the year 89, dead on a date with 44 numerology. Diego Maradona is from Argentina, which sums to 89 and 44. This date, April 1st, falls a span of 154 days after Diego Maradona's birthday. That's the reverse value of Argentina. Hargreaves' 2 deaths were 55 years apart. And Argentina equals 55 in the reverse reduction method. So all 4 base ciphers coded into this man's first death. Next, I also want to look at the actor who plays Diego Hargreeves. In the reverse alphabetic order, David Castaneda sums to 257, which is the same as the actor or the character he plays. Diego Hargreeves, also 257. In that same method, total solar eclipse is 257, so is blood sacrifice. Also, the name Castaneda, summing to 108 in the alphabetic order, which is the same as Hargreaves. 108, a number of geometry and full moon. Both the sun and moon are 108 times their diameters from the Earth. A couple more interesting alignments here. The birthdays of the main characters in the Umbrella Academy is October 1st. The date written 10-1. Look at the Umbrella Academy in reverse, summing to 101. Also, their birth numerology, 10 plus 1 plus 19 plus 89, is 119. That's the exact same birth numerology as Diego Maradona. Diego-Hargreeves' 2 deaths in the series are separated by exactly 2,888 weeks. In Sumerian Gematria, Diego-Hargreeves is 888. And then I just want you to think about the symbolism that's shown here on his fandom page. He's in this pose where he's throwing a kick. A kick? Well, a footballer like Maradona would know a lot about kicking. But furthermore, notice how he's standing in these 2 circles, or standing in one circle and kicking another. This, to me, is obvious eclipse symbolism when the circle of the moon covers the circle of the sun. The word circles has the same gematria as the word eclipse. An eclipse always occurs 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the last one. In Hebrew, eclipse equals 156. In English, eclipse the sun is 156. And in Jewish gematria, the name Diego-Hargreeves equals 1056. And finally, as another layer of synchronicity, I noticed how this man's nickname in the series is Kraken. And that's really interesting because if you've been following any alternative media lately, you know that lawyer Sidney Powell has been talking about releasing the Kraken for several weeks. And I always wondered why everyone was running with this word, Kraken. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But then you realize there's an occult element to it because, of course, this election fraud story, it seems like nobody there is really truly fighting for the people. While the people of this country are out on the streets fighting for Donald Trump, Trump himself is out on the golf course. He doesn't really give a shit. He knows he's playing his role in this whole thing. And, the whole idea is to make those who think there's election fraud look ridiculous. But the truth is, the fraud has been going on for much, much longer than most of us even realize. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya!